Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us here at Bakery Live. My name is Caitlin. I am the editor of International Bakery, and today I have the pleasure of being joined by Simon Bird from IFF. Thank you so much, Simon, for joining us here.
Thanks very much for the invite.
So, just to start, could you introduce yourself for us and what you do at IFF?
Sure, yeah. So my name's Simon Bird. I'm the Global Business Director for IFF's Food Enzymes business. So what we are doing at IFF is really trying to utilize our expertise and our knowledge, especially in the bakery space, to unlock new solutions to help bakeries address the new challenges that they're facing of today. But also, it's not just about the challenges today, it's about where we're going to see the challenges in the future to make sure that we have the right innovation pipeline that allows bakeries to meet any concerns that they may have moving forward.
Excellent point. Thank you, Simon. When we talk about the bakery space, a lot of exciting things are going on. In your opinion, what trends have you seen driving the growth of the global bakery market?
Yeah, it's a good question. Right? I think the major macro trends have been there for a while, right? So consumers are very much more conscious on their health, their nutrition, making sure that the products that they are buying are natural, label friendly, and of course we see the general trend across the food industry towards sustainability. So these are all still there, but I think we can't not mention affordability, right? The situations over the last 2 years, or longer than that, with COVID and now the conflict and war in Ukraine, means that affordability is really becoming one of the key drivers, along with the other trends that I mentioned.
So I think affordability is a really good point, and something that segues on nicely to my next question, which is about the impact of the cost of living crisis. Consumers cutting back on their spending. We talk, of course, how this affects bakers and bakeries. I wanted to know where you see the growth opportunities in this, what bakers can perhaps capitalize on.
Yeah, I mean, in some regions of the world, bakery prices have increased 30% within a year, right? So we can't expect consumer behaviors to remain the same. However, there are things that bakeries can do to ensure that they're able to offer the same quality products with the same taste, the same texture as they've done previously, while reducing their costs. And this is where we feel that enzymes play a key, substantial role. But within that space, there's still all the growing segments, and we've seen this ever since the COVID pandemic. Is the flatbread space is still an area where we see significant growth, and consumers are seeing that as a convenient and versatile and a different solution that they can use, even when they are struggling or really having that focus on their cost of wallet. So yes, the market is in a difficult position at the moment, but there are definitely steps, and there has been much more innovation in the space of enzymes. That means that, especially in areas where they previously not been able to consider them, now that these solutions are now coming into a play to help bakers tackle those problems.
There's a role, you talk about the changing role of enzymes. What is that, if you didn't mind elaborating?
Yeah, it's not necessarily a changing role. I mean, enzymes have been used in bakery for some time, but there have always been areas where maybe enzymes haven't been able to consider. But we've spent a lot of time in our innovation pipeline launching new products. I mean, in Europe and in North America, we launched a new Innovera range, which was really the next generation of dough strengthening enzymes. So this is really unlocking areas where potentially industrial bakeries haven't been able to utilize this technology in the past, but now is becoming an option. Other areas where we can talk where they can play is replacing very volatile or very expensive added ingredients that bakeries have been using for a long time. Gluten, we have seen, has been extremely volatile in the past, along with acerola. Sugar reduction is a key to not only hitting on that affordability piece, but also on health, right? And so if we go back to those major trends, you get a 2-for-1. If you're able to reduce your sugar content, not only you're getting a better product to your consumer, but you're also able to reduce the cost of your formulation. So these are all areas where we see customers wanting to focus and where really our expertise our team of experts are going into industrial bakeries to support.
Where you see the great opportunity for enzymes, I suppose.
Yes, exactly. Right. And the trends that we see in the changing landscape, I mean, over the last 12 months, if I talk about the challenges been facing in the wheat crop, this is again is another area where enzymes have been able to come to the fore and really solve a very rapidly changing challenge for industrial bakeries. And I think that they've seen that benefit using strengthening enzymes.
Do you think there's an element of talking to customers and potential customers and letting them know just how much enzymes can do? Do you think there's perhaps a lack of awareness around how they can help?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think more and more, I mean, especially in some applications where enzymes are being used, yes, I'm not sure consumers are fully aware of the role that they're able to play, but obviously enzymes go in a wide array of applications that do touch consumers. And I think probably the most notable one is in home and personal care, right? People know about the washing powders and how enzymes can benefit there. So yes, there is an area of there's an opportunity to advocate for why to use enzymes. And I think we are seeing that and we are doing that as IFF, showing how utilizing enzymes can not only reduce costs, they can reduce food waste, they can reduce water and CO2 emissions when it comes to sustainability. So enzyme as customers, as industrial bakeries tell their sustainability story, the power of enzymes and the power of biotech are really going to come to the fore. I think it will be within the consumers in a very short space of time.
So yes, we would definitely be remiss not to discuss sustainability in some way. Of course, it takes many forms, many areas that you can look at. But what I wanted to ask you first, Simon, is what do you think are the greatest obstacles to bakers being more sustainable in their production and operation?
Yeah, it's. I think the hesitance in the past is that, I mean, in bakery you're really focusing on taste and texture, right? And I think there's always been this concern about, if I go more sustainable, am I losing that? Am I losing those things from my brand? But that's very much not the case. Utilizing enzymes from a sustainable point of view, I think that the two biggest areas where it can work is on production efficiency and waste reduction. And if you think about that, not only is that great and the right thing to do from a sustainability point of view, but from a business point of view, it makes perfect sense as well. So realistically, once we're able to articulate and educate why enzymes are not only making sense from a business point of view and a sustainability, I think we see quite quick adoption, right? So when we talk about waste can go from anywhere from the production waste to the consumer waste. So we're talking about either shelf life extension or a robust process using strengthening enzymes. I mean, the statistics are actually quite crazy when you think about it. So 25% of consumers don't ever actually finish a loaf of bread. They throw it away. That should be a big concern for the whole industry. So utilizing enzymes, meaning that you get that quality, that taste, that texture for a longer period of time, will obviously reduce the amount we're throwing away. Industrial bakeries, they're very fast, they're very noisy, they do have stoppages. So utilizing strengthening enzymes will give you a much more robust dough. So all that effort that's been been put in place at the start of your baking process, utilizing strengthening enzymes gives you a more robust dough, meaning that you will not lose that volume. It has much better shock tolerance, reducing waste. And so even, I think it's estimated about 4% of bread is just lost during the production process. So utilizing strengthening enzymes, reducing that by half down to 2% is a massive saving, not only helping on your cost, but obviously reducing your CO2 emissions.
So yeah, I hear what you're saying. There are multiple advantages to applying enzymes to doughs, beyond food waste, industrial bakeries, all the way to the consumer. Um, do you think do you think industrial bakeries are doing their bit, doing enough to ensure that their is not just less food waste in their factory, but less food waste from, like you said, a loaf of bread comes to the consumer.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, and I think and the reason they're doing that is because consumers are demanding this, right? There's no consumer wants to buy a loaf of bread and then 2 days later having to throw it away. And if that's happening, they see the effect on their wallet. They also are very conscious about throwing away what should be good bread. And so if they're not solving these issues, that loyalty will move to a brand that can do that. So yes, we are seeing. I do firmly believe that the industry is making those strides, is making all those efforts to try and there are key metrics that I'm sure everyone's trying to reach in order to minimize the amount of returns that are coming not only from the supermarkets, but then to understand how much consumers are throwing away.
Absolutely. I think hearing what you're saying, I am encouraged, I suppose, that there's more consciousness, which I think ultimately is always good when we're talking about issues like food waste, like sustainability. Um, I'm aware that enzymes can play a role in the freshness of baked goods, for instance. So, could you talk about factors like freshness and how they influence on consumer purchasing behaviors when that loaf of bread comes to the shelf?
Yeah, I think it's. I mean, the non-technical term is the squeeze test, right? So you know everyone that you walk down your supermarket aisle and you'll squeeze a loaf of bread and say, okay, yeah, that seems that it's fresh. It seems it's good, but it's not just about that. It's about how is it going to be in 4, 5, 6, 20 days, right? So obviously the value chain for a loaf of bread, by the time it's produced, it goes to a supermarket and goes to the home. You need to make sure that the taste, the texture of that bread is remaining stable across that shelf life. And this is where enzymes like our PowerFresh range or the PowerFlex range, when it comes into the tortilla space, really allow that long shelf life, meaning that consumers, not only when it's on the shelf, they are going to see that and see that as a fresh loaf of bread, but it's going to remain fresh while it's at home and hopefully reduce this number, as I said before, of 25% of people throwing away a part of a loaf of bread before it's actually consumed, because none of us want to see that.
Of course. Do you see a more selective shopper, shall we say, sort of coming to the fore?
Yeah, I mean, I think that goes back to the cost of living as well, right? So we're seeing a big change between switching to private label compared to the own brands, but we also see the indulgence, right? So some consumers, when they do indulge, they're willing to pay a little bit more because it's a one-off. But we are seeing this big shift from your standard branded bread that everyone used to buy to the private label, the supermarket label breads that we see. So there's a challenge to be able to continue to offer good sustainable solutions while obviously at a lower pricing point because of the private label, and you're not able to demand that premium. And again, this is where we see enzymes playing a key area because of their ability to offer the sustainability savings, but also the affordability savings for reducing some of these very, very costly ingredients that we've seen over the last 18 months to 2 years.
I think the cost pressures are certainly at the forefront of many bakers' minds. What I'd be interested to know from you, Simon, was I hate to hark back to it, but was there a shift in people's attitude towards the supply chain after the pandemic? Do you think there was a trigger in awareness of, oh, well, this isn't necessarily as reliable as we thought?
Yeah, I think there was a lot of concern. There was a lot of readjustment, right? So I think now people were looking to source a lot of ingredients from other areas, making sure that they had different sources to source from, and dual sourcing. But I think mostly what we've been hit at, especially since the war in Ukraine, is the situation on the wheat. So wheat has been a big struggle for many industrial bakeries for a long time now, with the amount of export wheat. Or Ukraine was relied very heavily for its wheat exports. So now there is a limited amount available for industrial bakeries. So how do you do that when you're trying to feed the same number of people, if not the growing number of people, but actually one of your key raw materials, and the quality of that raw material is not to the level that you've been expecting? How do you shift your sourcing strategy? Can you switch your sourcing strategy? These are all very scary questions that a lot of industrial bakeries are asking, and we were in a very fortunate position of being able, with our expertise and the team and the background and the work that they've done on the strengthening enzymes, to understand how our enzymes interact with wheat quality, and actually being able to demonstrate quite clearly that you can source a lower quality wheat at a cheaper price that is available on the market and maintain your quality. So this has been a very interesting challenge, but I think now that's made people switch their mindset. Okay, well, if I can do that because this was an externally driven, what other benefits are there of doing this? Okay, sourcing more local ingredients, sourcing, not having to ship material vast distances in order to run their factories.
Yeah, it's exciting to see um, that maybe seeing all the potential, shall we say, of how bakers can work with enzymes and how they can address all of these challenges.
Yeah, I think there's this perception that bakeries is very traditional, and it is, but doesn't mean that there's not innovation going on. That's happening all up and down the value chain, and seeing how bakeries are coming to address the problems and really thinking outside the box. Okay, so well, look, this was the status quo before, but what technology is now out there that are allowing me to reinvent the wheel? And actually, it's surprising what is out there. So, and it can be as simple as just a simple reformulation. Actually, some things are a little bit more stable, so they can reduce a certain amount of ingredients that have been going into their formulation, so they get a cost saving there. And sometimes it's a very blue sky thinking, completely sourcing different kinds of wheat or different kinds of flour, and making sure that they are able to offer the same products that we all know and love. So yeah, it's sometimes these big changes really do spur on a new wave of thinking, and I think that's what we really started to see.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. One final question for you, Simon. At the start of our interview, you discussed how IFF keeps its eye on current trends, but also looks to future trends. Do you see any trends coming up in 2024 that will influence the bakery
Yeah,
space?
it's a very good question. I think we will continue to see. I mean, we are still in this situation. We are still suffering from the situation of the last 2 years. I mean, cost is still going to be very key, and affordability is still going to be very much at the forefront of everyone's minds as we go into 2024. I think long term, we are seeing a lot of new trends and things that we've touched on today. The health trend is very much here to stay. The alternative flour, how can that be used in the baking industry today? I think we've seen a lot more development in that space, and a lot more out of the box thinking in terms of what it comes to what a traditional flour was. So for the short to the medium term, I think the trends that we have, the macro trends, so making sure that we've got clean label, we've got 10, 20 years to a lot of company sustainability targets, so everyone's going to be focusing on those. But I don't think this is an industry that's going to sit around and not change. It will always improvise, it will always and adapt. So we're looking forward to seeing where we go next and supporting customers moving forward.
Definitely. And we're looking forward to seeing where you go next, Simon.
Thank you.